Some shit.
Molotov cocktail. Molotov cocktail. Aha! Wait, that is not Rick. It's not Rick. It's not.
Can you see me and hear me now?
Oh, it is Rick! Oh my gosh, you shaved!
Hold on. I shaved my mustache.
You look like you're 25. Seriously, I'm like blown. I was like, that's not Rick. I was like, that's not Rick.
25? That's about 40 years younger.
Wow, my goodness. So how have you been?
Good, you?
We've been great. We've been doing lots of fun stuff. Doing lots of interviews. You know, you're not going to believe Skinny Bob, because of you, is like all the podcasters are about it, and they're trying to figure it out. And yeah, man, we've just been podcasting and getting through this crazy corona stuff. How are you doing with all this?
Good. Yeah, we're just following the corona protocols, and and we're staying home, and we're still I'm still traveling. I'm still doing interviews, and I just came back from Colorado last week, and I did one for GAIA and
Gaia,
yeah, and Sid Goldberg, and I was back in New York, upstate New York. We were filming a movie that was on set for a week and a half, and then they shut us down because New York had given us permission, and then they canceled it. So we have to wait for that again. But I've been busy.
Yeah, you like working in the film industry.
Yes.
So I have some notes here I want to ask you about what's going on at the DOD and the Navy and I mean, it's just been like a freaking whirlwind of information that has come out. And I just wanted to get your take on, you know, what you think's going on in the UFO community and what you think we can expect.
Well, I think there's going to be disclosure coming soon.
Oh.
I think sooner than later. I think there's a lot of people working behind the scenes that we don't know about. Well, maybe you don't know about. I know a little bit about it. Former colleagues, but former intelligence officers, they're working behind the scenes to get some disclosure out. In fact, there's a film, it's a 17-minute film that was taken in 1996 off an aircraft carrier in the Pacific. And this film is an actual naval film that shows a UFO flying near an aircraft carrier. And the film is longer than the 17 minutes, but some people received 17 minutes of it. It's an extraordinary film. I only saw about 6 minutes of it, but
Wow.
It shows
6 minutes though. That's a nice.
Yeah, it shows an actual UFO flying around this aircraft carrier in the Pacific. I think it was south of Hawaii, and they scrambled aircrafts to chase this UFO. But the ironic part about it is the UFO was so close to the aircraft carrier, the planes couldn't take off. Because the alert planes were on the aircraft carrier, so they couldn't take off because this UFO was just above the aircraft carrier. So they had to get planes out of, I believe it was Guam, but I believe it was either Hawaii or Guam, from a base to fly out to intercept this UFO. And this was all captured on film. Like I said, I only saw 6 minutes of it, supposedly 17 minutes, but I think the real film the entire film was probably 45 or something. But they're trying to get this out. And there's two people pushing it. They're both former intelligence officer. One's a former naval intelligence officer. The other one is former DIA. But they're trying to get this out, and they're trying to figure out the best way to get it out.
Is this going to be like a smoking gun, do you think?
I think it's going to be a smoking gun because there's no way, number one, you can say that this was fabricated or planted or a movie scene because it was an actual aircraft carrier. There's two camera angles that I saw. I mean, maybe there's more in the entire film, but there's two camera angles, one at the front of the ship, the stern, and one midship. And it's extraordinary craft. You could see it came in so close to the cameras that you can see little portals. You can see beings or whatever looking out the portals.
Oh
This is going to be
my God.
this is going to be
I'm
extraordinary, but I'm not involved in trying to get it out or anything like that. Some other people are. I did see it. I saw it out in Las Vegas. There was a couple other people there. They're trying to figure out the best way to get this out, whether it's through um, independent producer or director, or whether they're going to try to do this on their own. I don't know. I don't know that.
wow. So, oh, wow, it gets close. That is like what we need right now, because those DoD videos are great. And I think, and we've had a lot of guests we've talked to about this, and I definitely, you know, we were able to kind of get your take off screen a lot for the special, which, by the way, thank you for being a part of the Storming Area 51 special on Travel Channel. We'll get into that. But we've got skeptics out there trying to debunk these videos as just anomalies or lens flares or something to do with parallax. I mean, how is that even possible is what I ask, is how would the DoD release this information or allow this information to be released without having fully gone through every means possible to make sure it isn't some sort of aberration in the film? What do you think? Is that possible, that all these people could be mistaken something and that the film is just an anomaly? Is that possible?
I guess it could be possible. I think one of the ideas that was put forth a few months ago was that this was a staged event, unbeknownst to the Navy, that another agency, maybe the Air Force or some other secret agency, maybe even the Men in Black type agency, did this, testing the Navy, testing that naval fleet. That the Navy didn't, not everyone on that Navy ship knew this was going to happen. But what the ironic part about it, and this is why I'm saying this, the ironic part about it, when those aircraft took off to intercept, they weren't armed. Those aircraft, those fighter planes were not armed. The F-18s were not armed. Somebody gave a go-ahead or an order not to arm those planes, a certain person on the ship. Now, he came forth about a year ago and said he was ordered by the fleet commander, which would have been an admiral, not to have any armed aircraft on alert, which is odd because if you speak to Navy pilots, every single aircraft on alert on those aircraft carriers are armed with air-to-air, at least air-to-air rockets or missiles. This time they weren't. Now, I've spoken with the pilot, one of the pilots that took off, and I've spoken with some other people that I knew that were on the ship, the Nimitz, on that day. They can't explain why those aircrafts weren't armed. And I think this gets back to the idea that they were being tested. The ship was being tested. The combat alert control was being tested. These objects came in. They scrambled some planes unarmed, so they couldn't shoot them down, and they filmed it. Now, why the Navy did this or why some other agency did this, I don't know. But let me go back about 40 years. Okay, or 38 years. When I was an intelligence officer.
I had to plug in my phone here. Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Rick.
When I was an intelligence officer in the Air Force, stationed at Kirtland Air Force Base, in the early 80s, they were testing drones. It was a highly classified program, because I don't think any other country was testing drones like we were, and they were combat drones. And one of the things they did, one of the ways they tested them was that a plane would take off And once the plane was in the air, they would launch these drones from the air, from the plane, and somebody inside the plane would be controlling these drones. Now, Paul Benowitz had filmed some of this, and so and we had to convince Paul that what he was seeing was UFOs. But some of these things, if you look back, or some of us that had access to it, look back at what they were flying there in the 1980s, and then what was seen on the Tic Tac film, looked like the exact same objects. So was there some kind of test being conducted, or was this in fact different from what we saw in the 1980s? The 2004 incident could very well be something that the government was testing that's highly advanced, or it could be something extraterrestrial. But that's something I had to throw out there because there's a lot of other people in the loop, so to speak. Former Navy intelligence, former pilots are saying, you know what? There's something wrong with the lead up to this. There's some reason why the aircrafts weren't armed. And so I just wanted to throw that out there.
I think that's interesting. I think that could very well be what's going on. And I think with not having armed planes, it would obviously make sure there wasn't any sort of actual conflict.
Right.
So you have to ask yourself, if indeed that's what's going on, why would people just be pressured into thinking that they're seeing anomalies and that they're mistakes? And I'm just kind of circling back to that point, because you said it could be possible that, I mean, I agree. It's possible that there's people out there that have reported or come forward to something that maybe was just some sort of, disillusion. But I just want to keep exploring that idea that the military is always up to something covert. Why would they put forth these videos and information without having checked? Now, but you're saying that there might be a deeper sort of military installation that is creating crafts and sort of seeing how they respond to carriers. Is that basically kind of sort of what you're getting at here?
Yes, it could be a highly secret program being run out of probably Area 51 or Tonopah or Creech Air Force that are so classified that other branches of the military aren't aware of them. So the government, some entity within the government, decides to test the military. In 2004, the Nimitz and their ships were out there conducting an exercise. So what better time would it be for this other secretive agency to test that aircraft carrier and the other ships by flying these strange drones or whatever they were at them to see how they would react?
Would that be like an exercise in a way to prepare for if we have to use this sort of technology on a foreign enemy, just to kind of get an idea of how they respond before revealing the technology to them?
Exactly. Or even more secretive, how would we react to an actual ET craft? How would the Navy react to an actual ET craft? So they fly these things, and these Tic Tac, these 85 or 55 gallon barrel looking things, and they display such strange flight characteristics that they want to test the pilots, those F-18 pilots, to see how they would react to an ET craft. Maybe that's, I'm just saying, I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know I don't know. I'm
right.
Just throwing that out
there. Yeah, you do. I'm just joking.
This is great conversation. I want to get into Skinny Bob for a minute. Actually, Skinny Bob aside, let's just get into gray aliens. Let's get into some of the stuff that you've seen that you know about. We talked about J-Rod. We searched for him at Area 51. He may have went past us in a trailer. I'm not sure. But tell us a bit more about these beings, you know, for everybody listening, obviously we're talking about the gray aliens, you know, the 3-4 foot guys with the big eyes. And we keep exploring that because that's what the internet wants to know about. Tell us a bit more about that and maybe some of their technology that maybe you haven't shared before.
Well, the alien that we captured or we recovered in the Roswell crash of 1947, somehow, I don't know who named it, but it was called EBIT, extraterrestrial biological entity. Somebody back then named it that. Okay, so they named it EBA 1. So obviously there was more than one EBAs. EBA 1 stayed, lived in Los Alamos, and provided a lot of information about space travel, about his planet, and about alien technology. He provided us with an energy device. He provided us with a communications device. But you got to understand that in 1947, between 47 and 52, because the EBA died in 1952, our technology was just at the very, very, very lowest level. And
right, they hadn't barely invented the transistor, I think,
exactly,
at that point.
Exactly. Oh, I was on a drawing board, but I don't know that we actually actually manufactured it. But so
it looks alien. So just real quick, if you look at the original transistor, if you Google it, it freaking looks like somebody. To me, it looks like somebody saw something and then tried to reverse it. That's what it looks like. It doesn't look like it just looks alien. We'll have to show a picture on here. I think it's weird. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Well, and so they were so far advanced. Some estimates were 50,000 years more advanced than we were. So how does somebody that is that intelligent explain something to us that we couldn't possibly understand how their communications device or how their energy device worked? How do and that was the dilemma that the scientists back then was experiencing. This guy knows all this stuff, and we were able to teach it English, but we can't understand what he's saying or how we could manufacture some of these things.
Right.
So that was one of the dilemmas we had. This guy was smart, but we just couldn't understand what he was trying to tell us as far as technology went. And when he died in 52, all we had was films of him talking to us, the old 35 millimeter films or 60 millimeter film, whatever it was, and what we had recorded and what he had showed us. So we had an energy device. We had this energy device, but we couldn't get it to work because we weren't as far advanced in technology as they were, and so we couldn't understand it. So that's
right.
What
you explained it as like a basically piece of plexiglass looking to us. It just looked like a piece of plexiglass with, I assume, no sort of technological looking anything.
Well, yeah, it was a large rectangle device, thick. It had some anomalies on each corner. We were able to test the amount of current, amount of voltage that it would give out. It would light up a little light bulb, and it also would light up a car headlights. I mean, a lot of things that we tested, it was able to do for us, but we couldn't understand the interior of it. We even, when the electron microscope came into existence, I believe that was in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, we used that to look at it, and all we saw was these little holes, and something inside a hole would be aggravated when it put a demand of electricity was placed on it. But we didn't know how it worked. Now, speed ahead to the 80s and 90s, we think it worked by 0-point energy. And that's something that Dr. Hal Puthoff has been tested back in those days. I don't know where we are in that,
right.
whether we figured it out or not.
But so the device essentially pulled from surrounding electromagnetic energy to power. sounds like from anything from a small amount to a large amount, no matter what, or whatever it needed, it would give it.
Right. Yes, exactly. Whatever demand you put on it, it would generate, whether it would be just a small little flashlight battery up to a power plant. It would
Wow.
provide that. But we just didn't understand it, how it worked. And we
I
have
bet you
it.
probably still don't.
I don't think we do. I don't think we understand it today.
And that technology probably hasn't been seeded, I assume. Like the transistor potentially was seeded, you know, if according to the day after Roswell, just kind of going into Roswell, because I wanted to get your thoughts on the sort of technology that maybe you've seen or that's been recovered from craft. And again, this was mentioned by in the day after Roswell, which was essentially a device that transmitted thought into the saucer to make it fly. They use thought. Is that correct?
Yes.
So
As I
now
understand it.
so now we're in 2020. Elon Musk unveils the Neuralink, which, for those of you who are not familiar with that are listening or watching, this is a device that uses tiny microscopic threads. We're talking thinner than a human hair, that are inserted in between the brain matter and used to transmit signal between a wireless device and your freaking brain, or as Elon Musk says, like literally it's like being psychic, or being able to telepathically, that's the word I'm looking for, thank you, talk to each other. Do you think that's a seeded technology? That, I mean, how does somebody even come up with that?
Well, I heard about this a long time ago. I heard Sandia National Laboratories tested some devices that could read brain waves, and also the MIT in a classified program they were looking into back in the 80s. They determined that every human being has a frequency. Everyone has some sort of a frequency. If you can tap into that frequency, you can do a lot with that person. You can manipulate the person, and then the person with a lot of training can use that use that frequency. And that's kind of the idea that I think brainwaves have. I mean, I'm not an expert on it. I'm just more or less looking back at what I knew about, and what I knew about the program back in the 80s. And they were doing a lot of things back then with the 80s with soldiers on the battlefield. They, even back in the 80s, they had these helmets with sensors in there, and they would place the soldier in some kind of a situation, and then would read his brain waves, how he reacted, how his energy.
80s?
Yeah, this was in the 80s they were doing this.
Wow.
And I'm sure it developed past that into the 90s and 2000. But even back in the 80s, they were doing that. And what they developed, what they found out about it, I wasn't in the loop on that, but they were testing this stuff back in the 80s.
I want to chime in on that because recently there was a video, I don't know if it was declassified or what, but it was shared, I think, by the Air Force, if I remember correctly. And it showed this helmet that's supposed to be new technology. And it's a full helmet with goggles, with a heads-up display. And I'm like, that is the stuff they described in the 80s. This helmet is from the 80s. This is not new technology. They're showing it in 2020 because you could still tell that it's dated, like high-end dated technology. So that only further corroborates this insanity that this huge technological leap in evolution, and we're so far beyond, I think, what the consumer has access to, and even what some of the highest levels of government and world governments has access to. The technology, I assume, that we have really kept secret is probably, would you say, hundreds, thousands of years advanced?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm just talking about, the only thing I know actually know about is EVAs. But there's, as I understand, there's been many other captured of alien crafts over the years. even ETs being housed at Area 51. I'm sure the U.S. government has learned a lot more about the ETs and the ones that are visiting Earth than I know about. So I think there's a lot of technology that we've gathered over the years, and we have experimenting with or trying to reverse engineer that is tucked away somewhere out there in Area 51.
Wow.
This is probably technology we would employ under most dire circumstances, I assume, in this country.
Yeah,
Say we're at war with. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's well, John Alexander. I'm sure you know who John Alexander is.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Alexander talks about some advanced technologies that we were developing and we have, but he doesn't talk about anything other than that. He leaves it there because it's still classified. Another colonel, Army colonel, spoke privately at one of the UFO conventions a couple of years ago, and he brought up, I mean, he had a display of all the different technologies that we were experimenting with. And some of these things are absolutely astonishing, like invisibility, how they can make soldiers invisible, how they can make an airplane and a aircraft carrier or a combat ship invisible against, during a battle or on the battlefield. So there's a lot of things that we have, I'm sure we have, that, and some stuff I'm sure we've used in Iraq.
The invisibility stuff you're talking about, there, and again, I'm going to put the video up if I can find it. There is a sort of, it looks clear. It looks like a clear shield, essentially. And the guys stand behind it and they completely disappear. And the wall blends in and so they literally disappear. And apparently somehow they use metamaterials to redirect the light. So everything you're saying is coming to fruition or has been otherwise proven. And I'm saying this for the people that maybe challenge Rick Doty, because this guy knows what he's talking about. And with the EBA, is that, I guess, plural for EBs, or I don't know. How many different races, because we've talked about this before, would you estimate that we have maybe, collected or whatnot from crash sites?
I only know of 4. Now that's
Can you describe them?
My knowledge of 4. Yeah, and they're named. The first one is a quantaloid. This thing is a kind of an hideous-looking creature, like a praying mantis, but it was highly intelligent. The second one is a trantaloid. It is very tall. It's taller than a quantaloid. It has the ability to read a person's mind. The third one is an eben, the one we're talking about, captured. And the fourth one, I only know a little about it. The Talls, the Nordics. Very
Dino
tall.
Alieto brought that up. Tall whites. There's
tall white.
Sorry, Rick.
Yeah, tall white looking. Now, I heard a person talk about some other alien races that we have. I don't know personally about those. I know Linda Howell can speak of, I think, 9 or 10 others, and there's some other people who are talking about 50 or 100. But I'm just telling you what I know, and that there were 4. When I left in 1988, I know there were 4 races of aliens we had in captivity or we'd had contact with. And those
what about this reptilian business? The reptilians live below, the Earth, and they capture the kids and they eat them. Is that nonsense, or is that something that? Yeah,
it's nonsense. That's the trantaloids. The trantaloids look reptilian. They look reptilian looking.
Like scaly, kind of.
Scaly, yes. But I don't know. I heard rumors about that. I can't say that any of those rumors are true.
Wanted to let you know, if you hear sounds in the background, it's because I have a parrot, and she.
Oh, okay.
She likes it when I talk. Okay. Joe and I have been doing a lot of research trying to get down to the gray aliens, and kind of, that's why I think the Skinny Bob video, and we've talked about this to every guest in this series about how lifelike and real they are. I listened to an eyewitness account from, I think it was like 40 years ago, and he described them as beautiful or good-looking people, sort of oriental looking. And P.S., that's his words, not mine, because oriental things are oriental, not people, as my mother is reminded on a regular basis. So he said that they looked more human than not. I mean, does that sound, or are the grays so different that they're unrecognized? You get what I'm saying? What are they really? Are they more human looking, or are they more alien looking? I know that's kind of a weird way to put it, but do they have sort of, tell me about that.
The Nordics are the human looking ones. They're the only ones that I know of that are human looking, and they can take on appearances of different style. I mean, as I was told, different facial features of a human, of a Nordic or a Swedish type, or even just a Homo sapien, plain white Homo sapien. They can take on those appearances. Now, the one I saw, the picture I saw, the one they'd captured in Washington, D.C. some years ago, it looked like a Swedish, had long blonde hair. It was a male, had long blonde hair, shoulder-length blonde hair. Eyes were very strange looking, almost cat-like. I mean, the outer lids were normal. The inner eyeballs were almost cat-like. Had a nose, a mouth, teeth, normal appearance, except for the eyes of a human being. But that's the only one that I know that would have taken appearance of a human. All the other ones.
Well, he was saying it was more, not that it looked like a human, but it was the gray, but the facial, just the way the face was structured, that it had big eyes and even though it had a little nose and a little mouth, that it still had a sort of a humanistic sort of feel to it, is the way he described the aliens, the gray aliens. So I was just wondering, so it sounds to me like there's two different sorts of things going on here. There's the Nordics, which, by the way, I don't really know how I feel about the Nordics yet. There's a very, very interesting story, we'll have to get into another time, about a alien cult called the Raelians, and they really play up that whole the Nordics. Tell us something that you've never told anybody.
It's not gonna go anywhere, I swear.
Do you know why? Everybody asks us that. And we just say it's only we just say that the biggest thing he told us was that he couldn't tell us things because it would frighten us. But we would like to be frightened a little bit, if you don't mind.
Well, the only thing I have never discussed, and I really like you guys. I really appreciate you guys getting me on storming 51s. I like you.
Thank you for doing it.
Research on you too, and you're real people. I mean, you're not fake at all, and I really appreciate that. I like to associate myself with people like you, and not the fake people.
Awesome.
You know who the fake people are. You know who they are.
Yes, yeah. We do. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
We come at this from a totally we want to know level, and so.
Okay, there was an incident. Okay, there was an incident. Never disclosed this to anyone. Well, I have, but not in public, in a private setting. Some years when I was working as intelligence officer, we had a woman come forth and told us that she was being abducted. She was very, very believable. She had marks on her bodies, not just little marks, but marks all over her body.
Wow.
We had a physician examine her, a gynecologist examined her. He told us.
Sorry, you said gynecologist.
A gynecologist. He told us that she'd had probes in her vagina, in her uterus.
Wait, Joe, just real quick, if you don't mind, because we're talking about vaginas, can you show Rick Doty your vagina neck?
Oh, we got Rick
Do
Doty on. This is not the time.
Show us, just do it. That's good.
Sorry, Rick.
So,
You're gonna edit that out, right?
Of course.
Okay. Anyways, so she was believable. We did a lot of other tests on her. We gave her a polygraph examination, and she lived in a somewhat remote area of New Mexico, probably 15 miles away from the base, up in the mountains. And she told us that these creatures would come, and she knew exactly when they were going to come, between 2 and 3 o'clock every single morning. Not every morning, but 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. That's when they would come and visit her. So we decided to go and set up somewhat of a surveillance. We set up cameras in her house. We weren't in the house. We were outside. We were some distance away, but we were monitoring the camera. We set up a microwave link on her roof so we could receive. I think we had 3 cameras. No, we actually had 4 cameras that stationed around her bedroom and her living room. She lived by herself. About 3 o'clock in the morning, these strange appearances, these strange shadows started appearing in her house. Now, this lady didn't have any electronic equipment in her house other than a television and a radio and a phone. And we're talking 1984 time period.
Wow. Okay.
She wasn't an electronics wizard or anything like that. These strange shadows would appear, and she's sitting on the couch. I mean, she's laying on the couch, and it appeared that she was sleeping, although we weren't there, so it appeared that she was sleeping. But these shadows would come in, and the shadows would come in, and we're watching this on real life. I mean, real time TV and our video link. And then as soon as they got close to her, they would appear. They would turn into these reptilian creatures. They weren't very tall, though. They weren't that 6 foot that I would told. They were probably 4 foot 5 or 5 inches, but they were really hideous looking. And they would stand over her, and they do this for 15 or 20 minutes. And then they would break into the dark shadow, and then disappear.
15, 20 minutes of horror.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, then we waited until a couple hours. We thought, well, were they going to come back? Or, well, at probably 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning, we went to her house. She let us in. We examined the house. We had experts there to do electronic sweeps of the entire house, because we were as confused as she was. Like, wow, we just witnessed a real abduction, a real live abduction. Although she didn't move.
Holy hell.
She didn't move. But
was she aware?
Well, she was aware of it. She was sleeping, she said, but she was aware of it. But she said that whole incident lasted for several hours. We were looking at the video, and it only lasted 15 or 16 minutes, what we were appearing. I could never understand it. And our advisors, our scientific advisors, Jerry Miller and some other people, couldn't understand how this could have happened. So we got permission. We asked our supervisors if we could stay in the house. And they initially said, no, we don't want to get involved in this. We'll do it from a distance. But eventually they allowed us. So we were in the house. We were hiding in the house. We had cameras set up. We had a link in our van some distance away, like we did the first time. And this was several weeks later. It was a week before Thanksgiving of 1985 or 84. And we were in the house. We were hidden in the house. I was in a little closet off the kitchen, and there was another agent in another room off the living room. And we had a little monitors that we were getting the feed that the van was getting. So we waited, and what we wanted to do is try to come out and confront it. Believe it or not, this is what we wanted to do. I wasn't scared. I mean, the other agent wasn't scared. We thought, are they real? Are they materialistic?
Right.
Or is this some kind of a psychological game that they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And we had weapons, we had guns, we always carried guns. So when they appeared, the shadows appeared, and then the creatures appeared, we waited. But as we try, I was in a locked door. I mean, it was in a closet, a little storage room, but there wasn't any lock on the door. But when I tried to open the door to get out, I couldn't. I was trapped in that room as the other agent was trapped in the other room. We kicked and kicked. Finally, I broke the door, but by the time I got out, the creatures were gone. Now, I've never told that before. I mean, I've told it privately. The other agent and I did a little presentation to some intelligence officers. We had a little film of it, which we couldn't keep, but I never told anyone that. And you know, I'm a pretty tough person. I don't scare very easy, but when that door was locked, I couldn't get out, and I knew there wasn't a lock on the door. It was just a regular.
Oh, that's right. That is terrifying. So
yeah, it was terrifying.
Had some force or some. That's like my biggest nightmare.
Wow.
To have aliens hovering over me for 50, 20 minutes and then being
I wasn't claustrophobic, but
again,
I felt claustrophobic at the time.
Oh, I bet.
You got
in fact, you can't get out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you so much. That's such a great story. That's definitely one we have not heard.
That's crazy.
So I don't think people realize there's skeptics and stuff like Michael Shermer, who's like, well, okay, well, if people are really abducted by aliens, why don't they bring something back with them? Bring a piece of the ship, bring something off the ship. You can't bring shit when you are completely paralyzed and under control, and they can hold the door closed on you. I mean, like,
yeah,
it's so far above and beyond it's like they just come and go in a blink, don't they?
Wow.
Yes. And what we found out, going back to that, what we found out, or what we later determined, was they had set up some sort of, and we couldn't really measure it, but some sort of a force field around her and around them, protecting them from any harm that we could have done.
Oh, wow.
I really think
they're way ahead of you guys then.
Oh,
wow.
Like, I really think they knew we were there. I really think they knew we were there. They weren't going to harm us because they were only after her, but they knew we were there.
Jeez.
Because I never heard the door lock or anything. I didn't hear any noises, but when I saw the shadows and then they appear, we had radios, and maybe they heard the radios. We had two-way radios, and I told my other Steve, I said, Steve, go, let's go. And we couldn't get out.
Jeez.
No. Did she ever?
Yeah, that's one time in my life where I was really, really, not the only time, but one time I was really scared because I thought, where am I? The first thing I thought was they did something to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
am I
wow.
really in this place, or they took me someplace else? That's what I was thinking at the time, because I couldn't get out this door. And it was dark in the room except for the light off the little screen I was looking at. And they're 1980 or screens. They're not something like we would have today, colored. And that's what really scared me. And when Steve, the other agent, was there, this guy was, tough. He was a Vietnam veteran. He was special forces. When we talked, him and I said, "Were you scared, Steve?" He said, "Hell yeah, I was scared."
Wow.
He said, "What the hell? How the hell did you do this? How did you lock us in this room? This door doesn't lock." Well, we figured it was a force field.
Wow.
So we're hopelessly unable to obtain. I mean, the fact that you were able to record it, and of course, that's suppressed information, locked somewhere, I assume.
Yeah, DI headquarters.
Wow.
Crazy. Is there anything else you want to cover, Joe? Because
I'm in shock right now. I'm talking to someone who was trying to interrupt an abduction, and it wouldn't work.
That's why nobody's been able to do anything. But they always say it's just, sleep paralysis. But I think
there's more to it.
There is a legitimate phenomenon called sleep paralysis. It's happened to me. It's fucking terrifying.
Oh, me too. It happened to everybody.
Yeah, you wake up consciously, but not physically. It's terrifying.
Yes.
I think for abduction, I sound like dad. I think for abduction, they probably also, they might even use that mechanism that's already in us biologically. Just, they just,
Yeah. Probably.
you know what I mean? They may not even need advanced technology to be able to take us take us consciously, but not being able to move somewhere, like to their ship. Because people go, well, there's no how would that work? Well, we don't need the technology. We already do it. They just have to turn on that chemical or that whatever it is that keeps the body still.
Well, there was some, I can't go into great details on it because it's probably so classified, but we've developed methods by tapping into a human's frequency to make that human do things that they would normally do. I mean, I saw an experiment some years ago where they tapped into this person. He was a volunteer, and tapping and manipulating his body frequency made him do things, standing up, turning around, and he was awake. You could see that he
literally
was awake.
Mind control or body or
mind and body control. But afterwards, when they showed him the film of what he did, he doesn't remember it. He said, "No, I was just sitting there. I didn't do those things." So somehow we can do that stuff. If we could do that stuff 25 years ago, imagine what we could do now today. And then one of the other things, I mean, this is really interesting. I was told by a scientist, and this was back in the 80s, I said, we can do a lot of things with a human body, right? And he said, yeah, he's not a medical doctor. He's just a scientist. He said, we learned a lot from J-Rod. So this tapping into frequencies and manipulating the human body, did we develop these things or did the aliens tell us how they did it? That's something to think about.
Whoa.
I'm thinking about it right now, Holland. That's terrifying.
It is.
Oh my God, it's terrifying.
I just want to say something because I listen to words very carefully, and I listen to Trump talk, and he's used words like invisible enemy, ominous weapons, and of course he's referring to the virus when he talks about invisible enemy. I just think, isn't that an interesting? Because I've seen the phenomena or these crap be referred to as invisible enemy. Do you think is that like a disclosure drip right there?
Could very well be, because I've heard that from abductees. I've heard that terminology, the invisible enemy. One particular one that Linda Howell has publicized years ago, this one woman who said that it's the aliens are invisible.
Well, and something like that, I think it's some of the declassified docs, it's referred to that as well. And ominous weapons. Now, by the way, he said that during the protests in front of the White House. And come to find out, those weapons that he was talking about that were ominous were essentially, I believe, microwave radiation sort of technology that they would come out and it makes your skin feel like it's on fire. But they didn't deploy those weapons, but that was an option. So I feel like, I mean, and by the way, just so everybody listening, I don't care what, I'm just talking about what happened. I have, unfortunately, no emotions. So I'm just talking about what happened.
I can vouch for that.
It's not about Trump or not about Trump or whatever. It's just about, this is what happened because of those things I think of, ominous, because I'm waiting for the UFO disclosure. That's what the hell I'm waiting for. Like, could it happen this year? Do you think, I mean, is it possible? Are things enough in place that maybe we might get an October surprise of, by the way,
could very well be right before the election. I think I'm apolitical, so I don't favor anybody, but one way to if Trump, in fact, and I don't follow the polls, but I hear that he's behind in the polls. One way that he could probably boost up his popularity is by some disclosure.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Well, he could also deem this information or these intruders as a threat, and maybe even potentially, motivate some sort of engagement with them, which would only
galactic war.
Something like that. I know Greer has talked about it, and I got to tell you guys, Dr. Greer is, I don't know, I feel he's oh god, that's a whole episode. He's not entirely nuts, and I've said this before. He's just an asshole. He's not nuts. Oh yes, there we go. He years ago started pushing this alien invasion hoax thing, and I was like, this is stupid. But then when they start referring to unidentified aerial threats, and then now we're going to, that could very well be the next plot in the chart, is that we're going to interplanetary war. Because and like I was asking Nick Pope, do you think it could be a revelation of, well, we found a germ on Venus, or a microbe? I don't think anybody would care. I think
Have you heard of the Venus germ? It's fantastic.
The Venus germ. There's germs on Venus.
Terrific. I know them.
I know. They're the best germs, even though they probably could maybe not be.
Pretty good.
Joe's better at it than I am now.
Hey, can we cut just a minute? Let me take my dog out of the room. He'll start barking. Hold on.
Sure, no problem. Yeah. We'll talk about you while you're gone.
Yeah.
What do you think about that story?
I believe him. That is fucking crazy.
What's it got in the background there? It's like a stack of books.
Leave him alone.
Is that tissue paper? I think that's 1, 2, 3 boxes of tissue paper.
Are you really sitting there talking about Rick Doty's tissue paper?
Oh, and a binder.
But you notice his clock, it's in military time.
Ah, look at you. Is that Jesus? I can't see what that picture is.
No, it's a Pralionoid.
What are they called?
Quadrinoids? Titinoids?
Quadrinoids or something.
Emmett's an asshole-noid?
You're an asshole. You're an asshole. I think you got that lamp from Walmart. That looks like a Walmart lamp.
Leave him the fuck alone with the...
Actually, that actually could be an Amazon lamp. Actually.
Are you recording this?
Yes, that's what makes it funny, dumbass.
Sorry about that.
Oh. No worries.
Okay, I'm back.
Yes, sir.
Joe was just pointing out that your clock's in military time.
Yes. Yes, it is. I always go by that. I don't know why. I just.
Hey, it's easy.
Our dad's in the military, and he does different stuff all the time. Except for, I got to tell you something about my dad, who was on storming Area 51, by the way.
Yeah,
yeah, apparently that was the best part. So there you go. He always would set the clocks 10 minutes ahead. So we never really knew what fucking time it was.
Yeah,
we're like, oh, we're late for school. No, we're not early. Damn it, Dad. You strike again. I'm telling you. Military people. We have a lot of military people in our family. So we come from a big group of vets. So I think here's the thing. Joe is pregnant, and he's going to find out if he's having a boy or a girl or neither today. So we're going to find out. We have to let him go because he's got to go get an ultrasound.
Yeah, sorry, Rick, I got to go. We're going to do an ultrasound to find out.
Are you going to put the jelly on your? Are you going to put the jelly on your tummy?
Okay. Hey, Rick, it was great talking to you. I'll let you guys know.
Great talking to you.
We want to know if it's got a peeper or a peeper.
Thank you. Emmett, shut up. Can I talk to Rick, please? Jeez, you don't shut up. Your lips just... Pleasure, Rick. Thank you very much, sir.
Will you shut up, man?
I'll see you guys.
Okay. All right, Joe. Have a good day.